The first thing you need to know about betrayal is that it doesn't announce itself with trumpets. It walks through your front door wearing your wife's perfume and your boss's smirk, settling into your favorite chair like it owns the damn place. It was 11:47 on a Tuesday night when Eva brought Nick Avery into our house. I was in the kitchen, pretending to care about the bourbon in my glass, actually caring about the manila envelope hidden under the sink behind the cleaning supplies. 3 months of work. 3 months of watching my wife transform from the woman I married into someone I barely recognized. Will? Eva's voice carried that particular tone, the one she used when she was about to deliver news she thought would devastate me, the one that said she'd already won. I turned slowly, letting the moment stretch. Eva stood in the doorway of our kitchen, all 5'6" of corporate ambition, wrapped in a designer dress I definitely hadn't paid for. Behind her, Nick Avery filled the frame like he was posing for a cologne ad. Early 40s, salt and pepper hair styled within an inch of its life, suit that probably cost more than my truck. "We need to talk," Eva said. "Sure." I gestured to the table with my glass. "Pull up a chair. Oh wait, your friend already took mine." Nick had indeed settled into my chair at the head of our dining table, the chair I'd refinished myself last summer while Ava worked late. While Ava, I now knew, worked Nick. "Will, don't be childish," Ava said, but I caught the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. This wasn't going how she'd planned. "Childish?" I laughed, setting down my glass. "That's rich. You bring your boss into our house at midnight and I'm the one being childish?" Nick leaned back in my chair, spreading his hands. "Look, buddy, I know this is awkward. Don't," I held up one finger. "Don't call me buddy. Don't call me pal. Don't call me anything except the guy whose house you're sitting in, uninvited at midnight." Ava stepped forward, her expression hardening into that boardroom mask she'd perfected since her promotion 6 months ago. HR executive. The title had changed everything. Or maybe it had just revealed what was always there. "I want a divorce," she said, flat and cold. "I've already spoken to a lawyer. I'm moving up in the world, Will. I need freedom. I need someone who understands ambition, who can match my energy. Nick has been incredibly supportive during this difficult time." The script was perfect. She'd probably rehearsed it in the mirror. Maybe Nick had helped her workshop it during their late-night strategy sessions at his penthouse. I nodded slowly, like I was processing this devastating news, like my world was crumbling. Then I walked to the sink, reached under, and pulled out the envelope. "Funny you should mention that," I said, sliding it across the table. "Because I've been doing some thinking too." Eva's perfectly manicured hand trembled slightly as she picked up the envelope. Nick leaned forward, curiosity replacing smugness. The kitchen was silent except for the old house settling around us, creaks and groans that had witnessed 20 years of history, now witnessing its end. She opened it. I watched her face cycle through confusion, recognition, and finally, pure terror. Inside was everything. Printed text messages going back 4 months. Photos I'd taken from the parking garage across from Nick's building. Nothing graphic, just the two of them leaving together, arriving together, his hand on her lower back in a way that wasn't professional. Bank statements showing mysterious deposits into an account I wasn't supposed to know about. A timeline, meticulously documented, of every late night, every business trip that wasn't quite business. But the real kicker was the last page. A detailed breakdown of company policy regarding fraternization between executives and subordinates. Highlighted sections about conflicts of interest, and a copy of the email Nick had sent to HR, Eva's own department, 6 months ago, recommending her for promotion. "You son of a bastard," Eva whispered. "That's funny," I said. "I was thinking the same thing about him." Nick stood up fast enough to knock my chair backward. "You think you're clever? You think this means anything? I have lawyers who will bury you." I smiled. Actually smiled, because this was the moment I'd been waiting for. "Go ahead. Call them. While you're at it, maybe explain to them how you promoted your girlfriend to head of HR. I'm sure that'll sit well with the board, especially since Eva's been the one handling all those harassment complaints from your other female employees. The color drained from Nick's face. Eva's hand was still shaking, papers rustling like withered leaves. "You've been planning this," she said. 3 months, I confirmed. "Ever since I found the first text." "You weren't as careful as you thought, Ava. You used our shared laptop to message him, our shared cloud storage for photos. You really should have paid attention during those cybersecurity training sessions." Nick took a step toward me, and I saw it coming. The alpha male move, the physical intimidation that probably worked in boardrooms. His hand came up, finger jabbing toward my chest. I slapped him. Not a punch, a slap. Open palm, sharp and humiliating. His phone went flying from his other hand, skittering across our hardwood floor. "You're not in your office now, sport," I said quietly. "You're in my house, and in my house we have different rules." Nick stumbled back, hand to his face, eyes wide with shock. Nobody had probably touched him like that since grade school. Eva rushed to him, and I watched her choose him in real time, her hand on his arm, her body angling away from me. "Get out," I said. "Both of you. Eva, you've got until Friday to get your things. After that, this envelope and everything in it goes to your company's board of directors. And Nick, you might want to check your car. I think you've got a flat tire, maybe 2. They left. Ava was crying, Nick was cursing, and I stood in my kitchen listening to his expensive car limp down the street on 2 slashed tires, courtesy of the box cutter I'd used an hour earlier. I poured another bourbon. My hands were steady. My heart was calm. The first move had been made, and it had landed exactly where I wanted it. This was just the beginning. 3 months earlier, I'd been a different person. Trusting, maybe stupid, definitely blind. I'm a project manager for Hendricks Construction, which means I spend my days ensuring buildings stay standing and workers stay safe. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work. I'm good at it. I understand structure, foundation, how to spot weaknesses before they turn into disasters. If only I'd applied those skills to my marriage sooner. The first crack appeared on a Wednesday. Eva came home at 2 in the morning, claiming a work emergency. She smelled like wine and cologne that wasn't mine. When I asked about it, she got defensive, turned it around, made me feel guilty for questioning her. Classic manipulation. I know that now. The second crack, I needed to use her laptop because mine was updating. Found her Gmail still logged in. Saw a message notification from Nick Avery. The preview was enough. Last night was incredible. Can't stop thinking about... I didn't open it. Not then. Instead, I closed the laptop, made coffee, and started thinking like a project manager. If you've got a structural problem, you don't just patch the visible crack. You investigate the whole foundation. I started with the easy stuff. Our shared cloud storage, photos, documents, everything. Eva had created a new folder called Work Projects. Inside were photos that had nothing to do with work. Her and Nick at restaurants I couldn't afford. Her and Nick at some beach resort. Her and Nick in his penthouse, visible through the window reflection, his hand in her hair. I downloaded everything, backed it up 3 times. Next came the financials. We had separate accounts, but I was still on some of the old joint ones from before her promotion. There was an account I didn't recognize, linked to our main one. Small transfers, regular. I did some digging. It was a savings account in her name only. $15,000. Money she'd been skimming from her paychecks, from bonuses I didn't know about. Then I got creative. I called Marty. Marty Kowalski had been my best friend since high school. He worked construction with me, had a face like a catcher's mitt and a heart bigger than Maine. He also had a sister who worked as a paralegal. I need to understand divorce law, I told him over beers at the old boiler room, our usual dive bar. Hypothetically. Marty looked at me with those sad hound dog eyes. Eva? Maybe. Brother, I'm sorry. What do you need? What I needed was information. Marty's sister, Patricia, gave me the basics over coffee. In Maine, adultery doesn't matter much for property division, but it matters for other things. Reputation, employment, especially when workplace ethics are involved. If someone in HR was having an affair with their boss, I asked carefully, and that boss had promoted them, would that be a problem? Patricia's eyebrows raised. That would be a huge issue: conflict of interest, potential harassment implications, ethics violations. If the company found out, both parties would be fired on the spot, possibly sued. I filed that away. Next, I talked to Jenna Martinez, Eva's work friend, the one who loved gossip more than oxygen. I ran into her at the grocery store, completely by accident, except I'd been tracking Eva's location through Find My Phone and knew she'd be there. Will! Oh my God, hi! Jenna was all fake enthusiasm and real curiosity. How are you? I never see you anymore. Ava keeps me busy, I said, loading my cart with beer. She's been working so hard lately, all those late nights with Nick. I watched Jenna's face carefully. There it was, a flicker of knowledge, of secret keeping. Oh yeah, Nick really relies on her, Jenna said too quickly. They're working on this huge project together, super important. Must be, I agreed. She comes home smelling like his cologne sometimes. Guess they're really close. Jenna's smile faltered. I should go. Tell Ava I said hi. She practically ran, which told me everything. The office knew. Of course they knew. Office affairs are like construction site accidents. Everyone sees them coming except the people involved. I spent the next 2 months gathering evidence. I borrowed a camera from Marty and spent 3 nights a week in the parking garage across from Nick's building. Got photos of them leaving together, arriving together, his hand on her back, her laughing at something he said. I checked our cell phone records, hundreds of texts between them, all hours. I couldn't read the content, but the frequency told the story. I talked to Mrs. Dotson, our elderly neighbor who spent most of her day watching the street from her window. She'd seen Nick's BMW parked in front of our house several times when I was at work, seen him leaving, adjusting his tie. She'd been eager to tell someone, and I was finally asking. I thought maybe he was a friend, she said, clutching her teacup. But the way he looked around before leaving like he didn't want to be seen, I knew something wasn't right. Thank you, Mrs. Dotson. You've been very helpful. I compiled everything into that envelope. Timeline, photos, financial records, company policy violations. I made 5 copies, stored them in different locations. One with Marty, one with Patricia, one in a safe deposit box, one in my truck, one under the sink. Then I waited for Eva to make her move. I knew it was coming. She'd been distant, cold, picking fights over nothing. She was building her case, her justification, making me the bad guy so she could leave with a clear conscience. When she finally walked through that door with Nick, I was ready, but that was just the opening move. The real game was about to begin. The morning after the envelope reveal, I woke up to 17 missed calls from Eva and a text that simply said, "We need to talk." Alone. I deleted it. Instead, I called in sick to work, first time in 3 years, and drove to Marty's house. He lived in a small ranch on the east side of town, the kind of place that was always half-finished because Marty kept starting projects he never completed. He answered the door in boxers and a Metallica shirt, coffee in hand. "You look like hell." "Feel worse. Can I use your garage?" "For what?" "Revenge." Marty grinned. "Brother, my garage is your garage." Eva's car was still at the house. She'd left with Nick in his BMW last night. It was a silver Lexus, her pride and joy, leased with money from her promotion. The promotion Nick had given her. The promotion that was about to evaporate. I'd learned a lot about cars working construction, including how to make them very inconvenient without causing permanent damage. With Marty as lookout, I siphoned half her gas tank into a container. Then I loosened her battery cables just enough that they'd work intermittently. Finally, I let some air out of her tires, not flat, just low enough to trigger the pressure warning. That's petty, Marty observed. That's the point. We were back at his place by 9. By 9:30, my phone rang. Eva. My car won't start, she screamed. I have a meeting at 10 and my car won't start. Did you try checking the battery? I asked innocently. I don't know how to check the battery. Can you come home and fix it? I'm at Marty's. We're working on his deck. Call a mechanic. Will, please, I hung up, turned off my phone, poured another coffee. You're enjoying this, Marty said. I really am. Phase 2 began that afternoon at the old boiler room. The bar was an institution in our town, been there since the 60s, still had the original fixtures and the same smell of beer and regret. It was where construction workers, cops, nurses, and half the town came to decompress. It was also where Jenna Martinez came every Thursday for happy hour. I arrived at 4, grabbed a corner booth, and waited. Marty sat at the bar, playing his role perfectly, the concerned friend having a few drinks. Jenna showed up at 4:30 with 2 other women from Eva's office. I recognized them from company parties, Sarah and Michelle, both administrative assistants. I waited until they were 2 drinks in, then walked past their table on my way to the bathroom. Jenna spotted me immediately. Will, oh my God, I didn't know you came here. All the time, I lied. Marty and I are regulars. How are you doing? I heard about, Eva mentioned that she's leaving me for her boss. I said loudly enough for her friends to hear. Yeah, that's been interesting. All 3 women leaned in like I was the most fascinating thing they'd seen all week. I'm sorry, Jenna said, not sounding sorry at all. That must be so hard. The hardest part is knowing everyone at her office knew before I did. I let that hang in the air. But I guess that's what happens when your wife sleeps her way into a promotion. Sarah gasped. Michelle's eyes went wide. Jenna looked torn between defending Eva and wanting to hear more. I shouldn't have said that, I continued, playing it perfectly. I'm just upset. It's just hard to find out your wife's been having an affair with Nick Avery for 4 months, and that he promoted her to head of HR while they were sleeping together. Makes you wonder about all those other women who applied for that job, you know? The ones who were actually qualified. I walked away, leaving that bomb to detonate. Behind me, I heard the explosion of whispered conversation, the furious exchange of gossip. By tomorrow morning, every person in Eva's office would know. By tomorrow afternoon, it would reach HR. Oh, wait, Eva was HR. By tomorrow evening, it would reach the board. I sat back down with Marty, who was trying not to laugh. You're diabolical, he said. I'm thorough. My phone, turned back on, rang 20 minutes later. Eva again. What did you do? She shrieked. Jenna just called me. She said you were at the bar telling everyone about us. Was I? I don't remember. I've been drinking. Happens when your wife cheats on you. You're trying to ruin my career. I'm trying to drink beer with my friend. Your career is ruining itself. Nick is going to destroy you. He has lawyers, Will, real lawyers. Great. They can talk to my lawyer, Patricia Kowalski. She's very good. Specializes in workplace ethics violations. Silence. Then, you bastard. Eva, you walked into my house with your lover and asked for a divorce. You don't get to be surprised when I fight back. And honey, this is just the beginning. I hung up. Turned to Marty. Another round? Brother, I'll buy the whole damn pitcher. Nick Avery's company, Avery Tech Solutions, was built on reputation. They provided IT infrastructure for mid-sized businesses, and their whole pitch was trust, reliability, ethics. Nick himself was on the board of the local Chamber of Commerce. He gave speeches about integrity in business. The irony was delicious. I'd learned from Jenna, before I burned that bridge, that Nick was about to close the biggest deal of his career, a 5-year contract with Morrison Manufacturing, worth somewhere north of $2 million. The deal was scheduled to close next week. Morrison Manufacturing was run by Gerald Morrison, a man in his 60s who'd built his company from nothing. Old school, conservative, big on family values and business ethics. I knew this because Morrison Manufacturing had hired Hendricks Construction to build their new warehouse 2 years ago. I'd been the project manager. Gerald Morrison and I had gotten along well. He appreciated that I came in under budget and ahead of schedule. We'd exchanged Christmas cards. He'd told me if I ever needed anything to give him a call. I called him on Friday morning. "Will Peters, how the hell are you?" "Been better, Mr. Morrison. I've got a situation, and I need some advice." "Call me Gerald. What's going on?" I told him. "Not everything. Just enough. My wife was leaving me for her boss. That boss had promoted her to head of HR while they were having an affair. I was worried about the ethics of the situation, about what it said about the company's values. That's terrible, Will. I'm sorry you're going through that. What company does she work for?" "Avery Tech Solutions." The silence on the other end was profound. "Nick Avery?" Gerald finally said. "That's him." Another long pause. "Will, I appreciate you telling me this. I really do." "I'm not trying to cause problems, Gerald. I just thought you should know what kind of people you're doing business with." "You did the right thing calling me." We talked for a few more minutes, then hung up. I sat in my truck in the construction site parking lot, watching the crew work on the new medical building, and waited. The call came 3 hours later. Not from Gerald, from Nick. "You son of a bastard!" Nick's voice was pure rage. "You called Morrison? You sabotaged my deal?" "I didn't sabotage anything. I told the truth. If the truth sabotages your deal, that's not my fault. Morrison pulled out. $2 million gone. Because of you." "No, Nick. Because of you. Because you couldn't keep it in your pants. Because you promoted your girlfriend and created a massive liability for your company. I just helped Morrison see what kind of partner he was getting into bed with. Pun intended. I will destroy you. I will sue you for everything you have." "For what? Telling the truth? Good luck with that. But hey, while I've got you on the phone, you should know that copies of that envelope went out this morning. One to your board of directors, one to your company's legal department, one to the local business journal. They're doing a piece on workplace ethics. Thought you might want a heads up." The sound Nick made was inhuman. I sat in my truck, hands shaking slightly, not from fear, from adrenaline, from the pure rush of watching everything fall into place. My phone rang again. Eva this time. "Will, please, you have to stop this. Nick's deal fell through. The board is launching an investigation. I'm being put on administrative leave pending review. You're destroying both of our lives." "You destroyed our life when you brought him into our house?" "I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Can't we talk about this?" "Sure. Talk to my lawyer. She'll be in touch about the divorce proceedings." "Will, please..." I hung up, blocked her number, blocked Nick's number. Then I called Marty. "Feel like getting drunk?" "Brother, I thought you'd never ask." The thing about small towns is that everyone knows everyone's business. The thing about small towns in Maine is that everyone also has an opinion about that business, and they're not shy about sharing it. By Monday morning, the whole town knew about Ava and Nick. The grocery store checkers knew. The gas station attendants knew. Mrs. Dotson had told her entire church congregation. The story had spread like wildfire in dry season, and with each telling, it got a little more scandalous. I'd become a local hero, the wronged husband, the underdog who fought back. People I barely knew stopped me on the street to shake my hand, to tell me they were rooting for me. Women from the construction site office brought me casseroles. Casseroles, like I was a widower. In a way, I guess I was. Eva, on the other hand, had become a pariah. She'd moved into a hotel. Nick wouldn't let her stay at his place, apparently, now that the affair was public and toxic. She'd been suspended from work pending the ethics investigation. Her friends had abandoned her. Even Jenna, the gossip queen, had posted a vague Facebook status about knowing your worth and fake friends that was clearly directed at Eva. I should have felt satisfied. I should have felt like the revenge was complete. But I wasn't done yet. The town's annual tech industry mixer was scheduled for that Saturday. It was a big deal. Local tech companies, business owners, politicians, all gathering at the town square pavilion to network and celebrate. Nick's company had been a major sponsor. Before the scandal, Nick had been scheduled to give a speech about business excellence. That speech was still happening. The event organizers, probably out of confusion or inertia, hadn't updated the program. I got an idea. A terrible, beautiful idea. "That's insane," Marty said when I told him. "You'll get arrested." "For what? Exercising my freedom of speech?" "For causing a public disturbance. I'll be respectful. I'll be calm. I'll just be truthful." Marty shook his head, but he was grinning. "You're going to do it anyway, aren't you?" "I really am. You in?" "Brother, I wouldn't miss this for the world." Saturday arrived cold and clear. The pavilion in the town square was decorated with banners and lights. A stage had been set up for speeches. Food trucks lined the street. Half the town had shown up, mixing business with pleasure, networking with gossip. I wore my best suit, the one I'd worn to my wedding. Seemed appropriate. Nick was there, looking haggard. He'd lost weight. His suit hung wrong on him. He stood near the stage with a few remaining colleagues, people who hadn't abandoned him yet. Eva wasn't with him. Smart. She'd become too toxic even for him. The speeches started at 6. The mayor went first, talking about economic development. Then the Chamber of Commerce president. Then it was Nick's turn. He walked to the microphone slowly, like a man approaching the gallows. The crowd had gone quiet, not respectful quiet, but anticipatory quiet. Everyone knew the scandal. Everyone was waiting to see what he'd say. "Good evening," Nick began, his voice cracking slightly. "I want to thank you all for coming tonight. Business excellence is built on trust, on integrity, on—" I started walking toward the stage. Marty grabbed my arm, but I shook him off gently. People noticed me moving through the crowd. Whispers followed me like a wake. Nick saw me. His face went white. He stopped talking. I climbed the stairs to the stage. The event organizer, a woman named Patricia Chen, tried to stop me, but I held up a hand. "I just want to say a few words," I said loudly enough for the microphone to catch. "About business excellence." The crowd was silent now. Nick stood frozen, trapped between running and staying. I took the microphone from his hand. He didn't resist. "Hi, everyone. I'm Will Peters. Some of you know me. I'm the guy whose wife was sleeping with this man." I pointed at Nick. "For 4 months, while he was her boss, while he promoted her to head of HR, while he was giving speeches about integrity." Gasps from the crowd, phones coming out, recording. "Now, I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm just here to talk about excellence. See, I think excellence is doing the right thing even when it's hard. I think excellence is being honest. I think excellence is not sleeping with your employees and then promoting them and then lying about it to your board of directors and your clients." Nick tried to grab the microphone. I stepped back smoothly. "I have proof, by the way. Text messages, photos, financial records, all of it showing a 4-month affair and a promotion that was clearly a conflict of interest. I've shared this proof with his company's board, with his clients, and now I'm sharing it with all of you." I pulled out my phone, pulled up a screenshot of one of the texts. Nothing explicit, just Nick telling Eva he couldn't wait to see her again, with a timestamp from 2 months before her promotion. This is what business excellence looks like in Nick Avery's world. This is what integrity means to him. The crowd erupted. Some people were cheering. Some were booing. Not me, Nick. Some were just shouting questions. The chaos was beautiful. Nick lunged at me. Actually lunged, hands reaching for my throat. But Marty was already there, stepping between us. His construction worker frame making Nick look small and pathetic. "Don't," Marty said quietly. "You've lost enough already." Security was coming. The event organizers were panicking. I handed the microphone to Patricia Chen and walked off the stage, through the crowd, which parted for me like I was Moses at the Red Sea. Behind me, I heard Nick screaming, heard the crowds roar, heard the complete collapse of whatever dignity he had left. I walked to the old boiler room, Marty beside me, and ordered a bourbon. My phone was blowing up with texts, calls, friend requests. I ignored all of it. "You actually did it," Marty said, awe in his voice. "I actually did it." "What now?" "Now?" I took a sip of bourbon, felt it burn all the way down. "Now I wait for Eva to make her last move." Eva showed up at the house on Sunday morning. I'd been expecting her. The public humiliation at the tech mixer had been the final straw, the thing that would force her hand. I watched from the kitchen window as she got out of a rental car. She'd lost weight, too. Her hair wasn't styled. She wore jeans and a sweatshirt, casual clothes I hadn't seen her in for months. She looked like the woman I'd married before ambition and Nick Avery had poisoned everything. For a moment, just a moment, I felt something like sympathy. Then I remembered her walking into my house with him. Remembered her demanding a divorce like I was an inconvenience. Remembered 4 months of lies. The sympathy evaporated. She knocked on the door. I let her knock 3 times before I opened it. "Will," her voice was small, broken. "Can I come in?" "No. Please, I need to talk to you." "So talk." She looked around, nervous. Mrs. Dotson was probably watching from across the street. The whole neighborhood probably was. "Can we do this inside? Please?" I considered it, then stepped aside. 5 minutes. She walked in like she was entering a stranger's house, tentative and uncomfortable. Good. This wasn't her house anymore. It was mine. We stood in the living room, not sitting. The space between us felt like miles. "I'm sorry," she said finally. "I'm so sorry, Will. I made a terrible mistake. I got caught up in the promotion, in the excitement, in feeling important. Nick made me feel special, and I lost sight of what really mattered." The speech was rehearsed. I could hear it in the cadence, in the pauses. She'd practiced this. "Okay," I said. "Okay?" She looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. "You forgive me?" "No. I'm just acknowledging that you spoke. You said you're sorry. I heard you. Is that all? Will, please. I know I hurt you. I know I destroyed our marriage. But can't we try to fix this? Can't we go to counseling? Work through it? I still love you." "No, you don't." "I do. I know I messed up, but..." "Ava, you don't love me. You love the idea of not being the villain. You love the idea of having somewhere to go now that Nick won't touch you and your job is gone and the whole town hates you. You love the idea of stability. But you don't love me." Tears started rolling down her face. Real tears, I thought. But maybe not. Maybe she'd learned to fake those too. "I made a mistake. One mistake. Does that erase 20 years together?" It wasn't one mistake. It was hundreds of mistakes, hundreds of lies, hundreds of choices to betray me. Every text you sent him, every night you spent with him, every time you came home and looked me in the eye and lied. Those weren't mistakes. Those were choices. I was confused. I was scared. The promotion was so sudden and Nick was so confident, and I felt like I was finally becoming someone important. "You were always important, Eva. You just didn't think being important to me was enough." She crumpled then, sinking onto the couch, sobbing into her hands. And I stood there, watching, feeling nothing. Or maybe feeling everything, but from a great distance, like watching a movie of my own life. "What do you want from me?" she asked through her tears. "What do I have to do to make this right?" "Nothing. There's nothing you can do. It's over." "Will, please." "The divorce papers will be filed tomorrow. Patricia Kowalski is handling it. You'll be served at your hotel. Given the adultery and the fact that you've been hiding money, I'll be keeping the house and most of our assets. You'll get your clothes and your car and whatever's in that secret bank account." She looked up, shocked. "You can't do that." "I can, actually. Patricia explained it all to me. Maine law is very clear about marital misconduct and hidden assets. I'll fight you. With what money? You're suspended from work. Nick's company is probably going to fire both of you once the investigation concludes. You've got no income and no allies. But sure, hire a lawyer. Spend what little money you have left. I've got time. She stood up, anger replacing tears. There it was, the real Eva, the one who'd emerged over the past 6 months. You're enjoying this, she hissed. You're enjoying destroying my life. I'm not destroying your life, Eva. I'm just making sure you face the consequences of your choices. There's a difference. You self-righteous bastard. You act like you're perfect, like you never did anything wrong in our marriage. I'm not perfect. I worked too much. I wasn't romantic enough. I didn't notice when you needed attention. But I never cheated on you. I never lied to you. I never brought another woman into our house and demanded you accept it. She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it. What could she say? Get out, Eva. This is my house too. Not anymore. Get out, or I'll call the police and have you removed for trespassing. She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Maybe she was. Maybe she'd never really looked before. I hate you, she whispered. I know. I'm okay with that. She left, slammed the door hard enough to rattle the windows. I watched her get into a rental car and drive away too fast, tires squealing. Then I sat down on my couch, in my house, and finally let myself feel it. The grief, the anger, the loss of 20 years, the end of the future I'd imagined. I cried, not for long, but enough. Enough to let it out, to acknowledge what I'd lost even as I'd won. Then I wiped my face, stood up, and called Marty. It's done, I said. How do you feel? Empty, relieved, sad, angry, everything. Want to get drunk? Not tonight. Tonight I just want to sit here and remember what it feels like to be alone in my own house. Call me if you need anything, brother. I will. I hung up, sat in the silence. The house creaked around me, settling into evening. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky orange and red, beautiful and terrible at the same time. My phone buzzed, a text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Detective Lisa Grant. Heard about what happened at the tech mixer. Wanted you to know I'm here if you need anything. You did good, standing up for yourself. Not enough people do. Lisa Grant. I knew her vaguely. She was a local cop, came into the old boiler room sometimes. We'd talked a few times, casual conversation, nothing serious. I texted back, thanks, appreciate it. Her response came quickly. Mean it. You need anything, call me, even just to talk. I smiled despite everything. Maybe there was life after Eva. Maybe there was a future I hadn't imagined yet. But that was for later. For now, I had a house to reclaim, a life to rebuild, and a final move to make. Because Eva and Nick weren't done yet. And neither was I. Monday morning, I woke up to chaos. My phone had 43 messages, 17 missed calls, and a voicemail from Patricia Kowalski that simply said, "Call me immediately." I called her from my truck on the way to work. "Will, we have a problem," she said without preamble. "Eva and Nick are planning to leave town." "What?" "Jenna called me last night. Apparently she feels guilty about everything and wants to help. She said Eva told her they're driving to Boston today, then flying to California. Nick has a cousin out there who runs a tech startup. They're going to try to start over." I pulled over into a gas station parking lot. They can't do that. The divorce isn't finalized. The investigation at Nick's company isn't complete. Technically, they can. There's no legal reason they have to stay. But if they leave, it's going to make everything more complicated. Serving papers, asset division, all of it. When are they leaving? Jenna said noon. They're meeting at Nick's apartment and driving together. I checked my watch. 9:15. I had less than 3 hours. "What can I do?" I asked. "Legally? Nothing. You can't stop them from leaving." "And illegally?" Patricia sighed. "Will, I'm your lawyer. I can't advise you to do anything illegal." "But hypothetically?" Hypothetically, if someone were to delay their departure long enough for certain legal documents to be served, that would be helpful. Got it. Thanks, Patricia. I hung up and called Marty. You busy? I'm at work, but for you, never too busy. Meet me at Nick's apartment building. We're going to stop a couple of rats from fleeing the ship. Nick lived in the Harbor View Towers, the fanciest apartment building in town, all glass and steel and pretension. I'd been there once before, when I'd left that envelope on his doorstep. I knew the layout. Marty met me in the parking garage at 10:30. He was grinning like a kid on Christmas morning. What's the plan, brother? We're going to make sure their car doesn't work. I like this plan. We found Nick's BMW easily, vanity plate that said Avery Tech. Subtle. I had my toolbox from the truck. Marty had his. We didn't slash tires or break anything. That would be criminal damage. Instead, we got creative. I disconnected his battery cables, not removed, just loosened enough that they wouldn't make contact. Marty deflated his tires to exactly 15 psi, low enough to trigger warnings, not low enough to be obviously flat. I removed his wiper blades and hid them under a nearby car. Then, as a final touch, I used a marker to write on his windshield, "Cheaters don't get to run." It would wash off, eventually. We were done by 11. We moved our trucks to the street level and waited. Ava and Nick emerged from the building at 11:45 pulling suitcases. They looked furtive, nervous, like criminals fleeing the scene, which, in a way, they were. Nick popped his trunk, loaded the suitcases. Ava got in the passenger seat. Nick got in the driver's seat. The car didn't start. We watched from half a block away as Nick tried again. And again. Watched him get out, pop the hood, stare at the engine like it was a foreign language. Watched Eva get out, frustrated, checking her phone. Should we help them? Marty asked, barely containing his laughter. Let's give them a minute. Nick was on his phone now, probably calling a mechanic or a tow truck. Eva was pacing, clearly angry. They were arguing. We couldn't hear the words, but the body language was clear. Then a police car pulled into the parking garage. Detective Lisa Grant got out, along with another officer. She walked straight to Nick and Ava, said something, and handed Nick an envelope. She's serving him, I whispered. Serving him what? Probably a subpoena for the ethics investigation. Maybe a restraining order from one of his former employees. Patricia mentioned there were 3 women considering legal action. Nick opened the envelope. His face went from confused to horrified. Eva was reading over his shoulder, her expression matching his. Detective Grant said something else, nodded, and walked back to her car. But she didn't leave. She just sat there, engine running, watching them. She's making sure they don't run, Marty said. She's a good cop. We watched for another 20 minutes. A tow truck arrived. Nick and Eva stood there looking defeated, their escape plan literally falling apart, or technically, stranded in the parking garage. My phone rang. Detective Grant. You wouldn't happen to know anything about Nick Avery's car troubles, would you? She asked. Me? I'm a construction project manager, not a mechanic. Uh-huh. Well, just so you know, he's been served. He's not going anywhere, neither is Eva. That's good to hear. Will, I'm going to say this once. What you did at the tech mixer was public speech. What you're doing now, if you're doing anything, is getting close to harassment. Be careful. I appreciate the advice, Detective. Lisa, call me Lisa. I appreciate the advice, Lisa. She hung up. I sat in my truck, watching Nick and Eva's escape plan crumble, and felt something like peace settle over me. What now? Marty asked. Now we go to work. We've got a building to finish. That's it? The chase is over? The chase is over. They're trapped here, facing consequences. That's all I wanted. Marty shook his head, still grinning. Brother, you're my hero. We drove to the construction site. I spent the rest of the day doing actual work, managing actual problems, living my actual life. It felt good. Normal. real. That evening, Patricia called with an update. Eva's been served divorce papers. Nick's been served with 3 separate subpoenas, one from his company's board, one from Morrison Manufacturing regarding the failed deal, and one from a former employee filing a harassment complaint. The harassment complaint is new. Apparently, your public speech inspired her to come forward. She'd been afraid before, but seeing you stand up gave her courage. I felt something twist in my chest. Pride, maybe, or responsibility. Is she going to be okay? She's got a good lawyer. She's going to be fine. Better than fine, she's got a strong case. Good. Will, you should know. Eva's trying to fight the divorce terms. She's claiming emotional distress, saying you publicly humiliated her. I did publicly humiliate her. Yes, but it was truthful speech. And she committed adultery. Maine law is on your side, but it might drag out longer than we hoped. I've got time. I know you do. I'll keep you posted. That night, I sat on my porch with a bourbon, watching the street. Mrs. Dotson waved from her window. I waved back. A couple walking their dog stopped to chat, to tell me they were proud of how I'd handled everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Lisa Grant. Drink sometime? I looked at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, yeah, I'd like that. Her response was a smiley face. I sat there as the sun set, as the streetlights came on, as the town settled into evening. My town, my street, my house, my life. Ava and Nick had tried to take it from me. They'd failed. I'd won. Not because I was stronger or smarter or better, but because I'd refused to be the victim. Because I'd fought back with truth and persistence and a willingness to make them face what they'd done. The promotion party was over. The revenge was complete. And I was finally free. Epilogue. 6 months later. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in March. Eva signed the papers without a fight. She'd run out of money for lawyers and out of energy for fighting. She got her clothes, her car, and $10,000 from the hidden account. I got everything else. She moved to Portland. I heard through the grapevine that she was working retail, living with a roommate, trying to rebuild. Nick had left town entirely, gone to California like he'd planned, but alone. His company had fired him. The harassment lawsuit had settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. His reputation was destroyed. I felt nothing about either of them. No anger, no satisfaction, no curiosity. They were just people I used to know, living their own consequences. I'd started dating Lisa Grant. Nothing serious yet, just dinners and movies and long conversations. She was funny and honest and had no patience for games. After Ava, that was exactly what I needed. Marty had finally finished his deck. We sat on it most weekends, drinking beer and watching the sunset over the bay. You ever regret it? He asked one evening. The revenge, the public humiliation, all of it? I thought about it. Really thought about it. No, I said finally. I don't. They tried to make me the fool, the victim, the guy who just accepted his fate. I refused to be that guy. I fought back with the truth. I made them face what they'd done. I don't regret that. You're a better man than me, brother. I'm just a man who got pushed too far and pushed back. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky turn orange and red and purple. The bay was calm, the evening was warm, and my life was my own again. My phone rang. Patricia Kowalski. Will, I've got news. Eva's filed for bankruptcy. She's claiming the divorce settlement was unfair and asking the court to revisit the asset division. I sighed. Will it work? No, the judge already ruled. She's just desperate and grasping at straws, but I wanted you to know. Thanks, Patricia. I hung up, told Marty what she'd said. She never learns, he said. No, she doesn't. But I had learned. I'd learned that betrayal doesn't have to break you. I'd learned that fighting back doesn't make you the villain. I'd learned that sometimes the only way to move forward is to burn the bridge behind you and refuse to look back. Ava and Nick had tried to ruin my life. Instead, they'd freed me from a marriage that was already falling apart, from a wife who didn't appreciate me, from a future that would have been a slow burn of resentment and regret. They'd done me a favor. They just didn't know it. I raised my beer to Marty. He raised his back. "To new beginnings," I said. "To revenge well executed," he replied. We drank. The sun set. The bay darkened. And somewhere in Portland, Eva was living with the consequences of her choices, just like I was living with mine. The difference was, I was happy with mine.